Danganronpa.
So this year I blindly played through the Danganronpa trilogy on the Switch. I played through the first Danganronpa in January, and I enjoyed it with a solid murder mystery story with a great soundtrack. But I found the task to be mixed. Then after that I played through the sequel, Dead by Despair, which was a way better experience that improved a lot compared to the original. However, my favourite game in the trilogy is the finale, Danganronpa V3 Clear Harmony, especially the ending, which has become one of my favourite video game endings. The ending to V3 is polarising, as some people either love it, like myself, while there are some who dislike it, even as far as saying the third game is their least favourite in the trilogy. I've already played the main trilogy so far and haven't touched Ultra Despair Girls or any other material, so I may get some information wrong. I just want to gush on why I love the ending. I feel the cast got better in each installment, with V3 being my absolute favourite, as I got to know more about each character outside of the side social interactions, and it was mostly sad seeing the characters who I grew attached to die, either by another student or the punishments. Chapter 1 and 4 especially. Throughout the game, the surviving students try to uncover who is the mastermind that trapped them here, their memories, what happened to the outside world, and how they got here in the first place. The students discovered that there was a global virus and a meteorite that destroyed the world. The leaders of the world decided to recruit 16 ultimate students who were immune to the virus to aboard a spaceship and colonize an uncharted and livable world. However, during Chapter 5, Earth was supposedly destroyed, and the ship that the survivors were on went back home due to the mastermind interfering. The Chapter 5 victim Kokichi and the culprit Taito team up to try to end the class trials by creating an unsolvable murder that even Monokuma wouldn't know who the culprit was. However, the plan fails. Chapter 6 starts with Kibo, the ultimate robot, trying to end the chain name by destroying Monokuma and the school. However, Shuichi comes up with a plan to end the chain name by having one last trial when they revisit the first case of Rentaro's murder, which was believed caused by Kaede, the ultimate pianist. Shuichi and Himiko discover that there was a secret passageway in the girls' bathroom on the first floor that leads to the library where Rentaro was murdered. They discover that Kaede didn't actually murder him, and instead was Sumudi, the ultimate cosplayer, who did it. While being accused, Sumudi mentions that Junko Inashima was the mastermind, and then transformed into her. Junko was mentioned throughout the story, so in the back of my mind, I was worried she would return as the main bad guy, especially since she appeared twice in the first 2 games, and when I saw her, I was disappointed. But the game knew I was going to react that way, and we found Sumudi can transform to any character, and that the chain game the students were participating in and the previous games were fictional. I had to pause for a moment, as I couldn't believe what was going on, but I absolutely loved it. It turned out the flashlights that were supposedly recovering lost memories were actually implanting new made-up memories, and that the events of the chain game were being broadcast worldwide. In the world of V3, the first 2 games were part of a fictional series that became incredibly popular over time, where it became a reality show that lasted 53 seasons, which would make The Simpsons blush. If you knew the twist beforehand, without getting up spoilers, give yourselves a pat on the back, because I couldn't have predicted it. No, I would say it didn't feel like it didn't come out of nowhere, as there were subtle cues throughout the game, including the prologue chapter. I do feel the meta writing can be handled poorly if used commonly, especially if it's used for comedy. However, I feel it is handled well here, and it suits V3's themes about truths, lies, and beliefs. Throughout the series, hope and despair were the main themes of the game, with the first 2 titles being about overcoming despair with hope, and in 2, forging your own future with hope. Now, the third game does bring up hope and despair too, but instead challenges those themes by questioning why the students have to suffer in despair so the others can be inspired by hope. In the first chapter, Kaede inspires hope in Shuichi, who at the beginning was passive. she then ultimately dies just so Suichi and the rest can be influenced by her to confront despair. Then you have Taito, who takes Kaede's mantle and gives confidence in Suichi and Maki to open up more and solve the crimes in front of them. Maki even develops feelings for Taito during the later half. It's not just Suichi or Maki that attends, but also Himiko, who by the end of chapter 3, she witnesses the deaths of her friends Angie and Kenko that gave her the confidence to have hope to get out of the killing game. Prior to their death, Angie and Kenko were the ones who confronted Himiko, with Angie's dog giving her a spiritual belief, easing her stress, and Kenko for sticking up for her. Killing off a character is used as a tool to inspire the other characters and develop those remaining characters, or at least the protagonist. An example would be in the film Dead Poet Society, starring Robin Williams, where during the last hour of the film, we see one of the main characters, Neil, commit suicide due to the pressures of his parents and the teachers at the school, as he felt that his dream of becoming an actor would never happen. He is swallowed by despair. However, he inspires hope to the majority of his fellow classmates throughout the film and gives them the courage to stand up and fight the system. Neil inspires Todd, who at the beginning of the film was also passive and submissive like Suichi, and gives him the confidence to stand up for himself. Danganronpa does this throughout the series, with Sakura's death in 1 and Pito's death in 2. V3 does this constantly too. When we see deaths to characters that we love, it pulls our heartstrings, and while these stories are fictional, it makes us feel something in our own way, and using a character's death is a good story device for that. It is used for our entertainment. Think of any piece of entertainment you played, read or seen, and a good majority of them has some form of conflict, whether it be physical or psychological. It's entertaining for us, but if we were experiencing these conflicts, I think we would have dreaded it, and I think that's what the developers and writers were going for. I could compare the killing game to reality TV. While these shows and Danganronpa would most likely target two completely different demographics, I think it's a decent comparison. In the world of V3, Danganronpa became a big show where the contestants enter the killing game and are viewed by people around the world for entertainment. Now, a killing game is a bit extreme and would never happen in our reality, but we do have reality shows that a large audience would watch just to see others fight, argue, or be manipulated. Reality shows like Love Island or Big Brother, like the killing game, have a group of various boys and girls and puts them in a solitary environment from the outside world within weeks or months. Reality shows give us the illusion that the people we see on screen are the actual selves, so we boo the ones we hate and cheer on the people we love. However, behind the scenes, these are actual people who are being manipulated by the producers and other people involved in the show, who can control how the audience would feel by using various techniques, such as editing, camera movement, directing the participants on how they would act or influence them psychologically with resources and the environment itself. Our mastermind Samudi plays the role of producer, editor and director, and Kibo unwittingly is the camera for the outside world. Whilst he tells the players he made them do these actions, I don't think it necessarily means he is physically controlling them because it's a game, but more so that he's exploiting them behind the scenes, like how a reality TV producer is controlling the contestants. Reality shows have also damaged and ruined lives for so many people, especially the most vulnerable, which at worst has led to suicide. There are some shows and articles that explain it better, but to simplify it, these people who make the shows do it for entertainment and profit, which is what Samudi is doing. I think I would have had Kibo to be the main protagonist, since he is the eyes of the audience in the story, and then everything we played and seen is through his eyes. Or at least have Suichi and Kibo to be the same character, but I think the execution overall is solid. Yet, despite some grim stuff, a large majority still watches these kinds of shows, and I think we enjoy some form of conflict in our entertainment. If we don't have stakes, then people would lose interest and would stop consuming them. In the end, the survivor's plan is to not participate anymore, meaning not to vote. If no one votes, then the people will lose interest, meaning the end of the killing game and Danganronpa. Like the audience and Smoothie, we have a hard time of letting go of series we enjoy, but not all franchises need to last forever and can be enjoyed on their own. A series can get stale over time depending on how long a show is, but if a series ends at the right moment, it can feel satisfying getting back on what the creators have made. I really like the creators of the series wanted the franchise to end on a high note to where people would still talk about it for a long time, and while there is still some possibility that the series can still continue, I'll be happy with what we got. The final lines in the trial, "Together we're gonna end Danganronpa," felt like this was the end. V3's ending and what is considered truth and lies can be left to one's own interpretation, and this is how I interpret it. Some people may take it like the whole game was fictional, while others might think of something else. I don't think the first two games were fictional, at least in their own games, but with V3 being in a separate universe, I think the first two games are stories in that specific universe. Like reality shows, games, or any piece of entertainment, we only have the perspective of the creators and the participants. I think what makes V3's story so great is that there is no right answer, yet has so many things to say, yet how we can see media, stories, create fandoms, and the pros and cons of truth and lies. I don't think the creators of the game had any ill will towards the audience, but just to tackle how we consume entertainment. According to the director and writer, they were expecting mixed responses, but were committed to it. The writer wanted to spice things up and make it feel different to the previous games. Whatever your opinion on the game is, it made an interesting discussion piece that could be talked about for ages, and I think they succeeded. Let me know what you think of Danganronpa V3 and its ending. I didn't really plan this, but after planning the experience in the trilogy, I really wanted to talk about it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.